Welcome, everybody. We are so delighted to have you all in today's webinar. And I'll ask that as we wait for others to join, shall we sit back and relax, and we shall begin in a minute or two. Thank you. Okay, we can start now, and I'll begin by just saying hello to everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all, wherever you are joining us from in the world on this wonderful International Women's Day. My name is Dr. Chowdhury Jacobs, a nurse, public health specialist, and an epidemiologist. I'm a researcher and academician, and I'm the Women in Global Health chapter lead. I'm the co-founder and lead for Women in Global Health chapter in Zambia. I'm also the Harvard Fellow, joining you from Boston today, and I'm super excited to be part of the Pathfinder's International Women's Day celebration with the theme, Building an Equitable World for Women and Girls and Moving Forward Beyond Family Planning. To support women on this International Women's Day and every day thereafter, we as a global health community must go far beyond family planning. We must take intersectional approaches to address the most pressing issues and needs in the communities we serve to deliver the greatest impact. Today, you will be taken on a tour of Pathfinder's activities in Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Jordan, Egypt, that build activities focused on women's empowerment, climate resilience, prevention of gender-based violence, and adolescent, including youth sexual reproductive health as core elements to improving sexual and reproductive health outcomes, as well as to contributing to gender equity. But first, I want to invite that first we are going to be joined by Dr. Tabitha Sarosh. Dr. Sarosh is Pathfinder's president, South Asia, Middle East, North Africa, and the 2022 Heroine of Health Award winner. Dr. Tabitha Sarosh is accountable for the impact, revenue, and operating performance of Pathfinder's programs in Bangladesh, India, Egypt, Jordan, Pakistan, and Myanmar. She is also accountable for expansion of strategies in these particular regions. Previously, Dr. Sarosh served as a country director for Pathfinder in Pakistan since 2016. She is clinically trained and seasoned public health practitioner in sexual reproductive health rights with multifaceted experience of technical leadership and management of sexual and reproductive health programs, including research, and this is at national, regional, and global level in the development and humanitarian sectors. She is driven by a commitment of women's rights and health rights for all people with experience of rights-based programming of over 18 years. Dr. Sarosh, thank you for joining us today. and we are happy to have you. And thank you to everyone who submitted questions for Dr. Tabitha through the registration form. Unfortunately, in as much as we would have loved to have all the questions addressed today, we won't have time to answer all of them today. But we encourage that you get in touch with Pathfinder Communications if you want to follow up on any questions that we may not have tackled today, that we will not be able to tackle today. Dr. Sarosh, welcome.
Thank you so much. And if you allow me, may I just say a very happy International Day to you and to all the participants joining us. May we all soar in solidarity. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So why don't we begin with our session this morning and afternoon and evening, wherever everybody's joining us. And I would like to begin with the first question where we would love to hear from you. Could you please tell us a little about the actions that are being taken towards localizing and organizational transformation in line with the theme that we have today?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I think this is a very important question, and it's actually linked to equity also. I'll tell you why, because, for us at Pathfinder, localization is deeply linked to being mission driven. The mission of organizations like Pathfinder is inextricably committed to women and communities that we bring our programs to. While SRHR work is needed across the world, the women in the South face stark inequities and injustices that stem from systems insufficiency at one hand and impeding social-cultural norms on the other hand. The layers of inequities are perpetuated by poverty and marginalization of the minorities. So in the year 2020, Pathfinder took an intentional approach towards localization to take our work closer to our communities so that decisions and prioritization are done closer to the communities. The journey has been mission-driven and not linear at all. And it will probably be never linear, right? In November 2021, USAID also made the announcement towards increasing funding for local organizations and locally led programs. And this has given us the opportunity to triangulate and also learn from what other contemporaries are doing. We focused on organizational structures and executed changes that brought the leadership closer to the community, which removed the HQ and the field model, transitioning authorities and responsibilities to the country leadership and to the region. This avoids delays. Pathfinder removed also its dual position of CEO and president to place a president in Africa and one in Asia MENA. Power distribution through engagement of country leaders in the Global Leadership Council and creating channels for cross-country knowledge exchanges was done next. We proceeded to modify our systems through developing clear lines of mutual accountability and delegation of authorities. We have removed implementation barriers, which often we face while standing up large multi-million-dollar projects by transferring tiers of decision-making to our countries for different functions. The delays otherwise caused risk to the delivery of our projects and the communities in dire needs of our services. For ages, Pathfinder has strengthened local organization, and the large bulk of our project funds flows into our local consortium partners. As we move forward with the country-led approach, we increase the indirect flow of funds to our country for better local administration and sustainability. And then comes the second part, which is more tricky, which is organizational transformation. And I think you also mentioned that. And that includes the mindset shift. This includes changing the way we look at things. And any journey of this sort is always accompanied by uncertainties and difficulties. And we faced that too, and we continue to resolve them on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. And each organization will eventually have its own journey. This is linked to a paradigm shift, which is not linear, and it's important to be respectful and empathetic. More than 90% of our staff live outside the global north, in about 20 countries where we program. The local knowledge that feeds into our programs and operations through teams in the countries leads to pragmatic allocation of funds and resources and solid local partnerships on the other hand. In such a transformation, there are always risks and not just limited to financial and compliance. This was mitigated through partnership of country and global staff internally and strengthening local government and non-government partnerships externally. Open and solution-centered transition conversations were held. So while we were doing all of this, we were talking to each other and we were keeping the channels of communication open. And then we piloted our transition. I would end by saying that organizations like Pathfinder, who are primarily working around women's well-being, need to be even more close to the communities than ever. More and more women are unlocking their agency to become self-aware and venture towards autonomy, creating more demand. More local nuances and considerations will now have to be taken into account. The world as we know post-COVID-19 is transforming at a rapid pace, providing new channels of growth as well as posing new challenges, particularly in the lower and middle-income countries and the lower-income countries. It's never been a secret that sustainable, locally informed, and locally led programs and organizations logically have more chances of impact, even more so now. I hope that answers the question, but please feel free to ask me more.
Thank you. Exactly. It really does answer the question. In fact, while you state that there's been some delays in the actions being taken to localize and towards taking action towards localization and organizational transformation, it's definitely obvious that a lot has been done. Substantive actions have been taken in responses to ensure that women's needs are met, which is good. Why don't we move to the next question? For the next question, Dr. Sarosh, would like to hear how far you think we should go beyond family planning. Even as you stated, how far should we go beyond family planning? But at the same time, making sure that we give priority to family planning. What would be your take on this?
My take is that this is a very, very important question. And, this is the time for us to self-reflect, co-create, conceptualize, while we envision a woman as a whole, while we envision her needs as a whole, This question actually forces us to explore what health and well-being means for a woman and what we need to address to ensure healthy, resilient communities and societies. So to explore further, we need to look beyond FP, which is family planning, into the social and gender determinants of health. In many of the countries that we work in, women often find themselves quite at the lower rung of power and decision-making hierarchy. As caregivers, they provide food to their families first and eat in the end. They sacrifice their education and sometimes opportunities over their families' needs. Family planning is not always on the top of their minds because they're surrounded by so many other issues that take priority for them. If they had resources, funds, they would buy food for children or arrange for clean drinking water. At that time, contraception might not be at the top of their minds. So let's begin with food insecurity, for example, and to the extent a woman goes to ensure that her house is food insecure. So to ensure health and well-being for our people, we need to dig deep into what issues the communities are facing, what issue the women and girls are, facing. Women's health-seeking behaviors indicate that they sometimes only visit a health facility for pregnancy-related or children-related issues. In the rollout of the Universal Health Coverage Program, this is an important consideration. In order to capitalize and build on the opportunities of women interfacing with health systems, Pathfinder in Pakistan is programming on post-pregnancy family planning in the service of the UHC package in partnership with the World Bank and support of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Family planning counseling during antenatal, delivery, and postnatal touch points, in addition to neonatal and infant care touch points, is important, and an approach that is cognizant of social and gender determinants of health. At Pathfinder, more and more we believe that in order to facilitate women in exercising their reproductive agency, we also need to empower them economically and socially. This includes addressing food insecurity, protection from violence, elimination of child marriages, addressing climate change and its disproportionate effects on women and girls, and financial inclusion initiatives. Addressing one or the other does not shift the priority, but improves our approach, impact, and outcome. It encourages ownership and brings meaningful self-sustaining change. In the panel after my talk, you will hear about our various programs which are looking at women holistically. And I just want to end by saying that without going beyond family planning, we'll never truly fulfill our commitments under the Universal Health Coverage Package, because the inequalities that exist will have to be addressed and prioritized and will require an intersectional lens. Thank you.
Welcome. In fact, I think you raised one key point here regarding health-seeking behaviors for these women. And most times we see that these are hindered by social determinants of health. And as you've outrightly put them, including gender dimensions, gender-related barriers. And I wanted to further push this question to check with you how you think, how can this be positioned, the issues that we're talking, how can they be positioned under the universal health coverage aspect that the world is looking to?
Yeah, thank you. I think this is a great follow-on question. One of the things which is mandatory here is to sit down with the communities, is to sit down with the women. We need to be looking at the gender aspects of the entire universal health coverage program. What kind of approaches are the governments going to take to make sure that the services are accessible to women, they're affordable to women. Access is still going to be a huge issue, because while we roll out UHC and focus on the supply side, we know that in many of the societies that we work in, just access to a health facility is different. Here, I would like to give the example of our program, Sukhi Jiban, in Bangladesh, where we actually initiated community-based postpartum family planning. We had to initiate this program because there's still so many births, are taking place at home. This is where universal health coverage needs to focus also, because there will always be communities and women and girls who might not be able to reach the facilities. And how are we providing our services to them in a very gender transformative way, in which we actually recognize the importance of the gender determinants and plan with the communities. How are we looping back from the women is another area, universal health coverage needs to go hand in hand with various community accountability approaches, that have been tested and tried, the citizen scorecard, village health committees, and revival of such mechanisms is also going to be key.
Right. And Dr. Saroshi, do you see a trend in governments starting to work in a more intersectional way, particularly around climate resilience and sexual reproductive health rights?
Yeah, thank you. And especially also for your stress on climate resilience and rights. You see, I am right now talking to everybody from Karachi, Pakistan, my home country. And 2022 was very traumatic and devastating for us. Even as we enter 2023, we're seeing the impact of the floods, that affected more than 3 million people, out of which 625,000 were pregnant women. Reports from agencies such as UNFPA, UNICEF, they've highlighted the dismal state women and children particularly were facing from lack of reproductive health services. Our neighbors in India also faced deadly floods, and Bangladesh recorded some of the worst floodings and which wreaked havoc in the country. The coastal storms were more than unusual this time. Egypt and Jordan are also extremely vulnerable to climate change, particularly to water scarcity, and need immediate solutions to reduce vulnerabilities. Now, coming to the government response, this COP27, which took place in Egypt, had had a very vibrant participation from the government. I remain very hopeful, and because the commitments from countries to climate resilience was seen to be high. Governments from South Asia and the MENA region, are developing national adaptation plans and country policies with strategies around climate adaptations and have health features integrated in them, which is promising. The problem, or let's say the barrier or the bad bottleneck that we face is usually during implementation. So while it's very important for all these plans to reflect these considerations, it's important for the government, also all our government stakeholders, to be talking to each other, the departments to be talking to each other. We do see that governments are pushing for the minimal initial service package rollouts. Plans and policies are talking about pregnant women's needs during crisis. However, SRHR does not arise as a key area of focus, where I think more advocacy and work needs to be done. It signals that we need to delve deeper into the intersection with SRHR and bring to the forefront the solutions that take a conscientious approach to ensure that sexual and reproductive health is not missed in the talks. So in short, I do think governments are starting to work on these intersections. I think practitioners like us and implementers and supporters are pushing the agenda, but we need to do more. One of the key areas that interventions can be made is to identify the existing multi-sectoral mechanisms in countries at national and subnational level and integrate SRHR and climate change into that. So, for example, in Pakistan, Pathfinder is now meaningfully working to integrate SRH for climate resilience with an already existing multi-sectoral intervention for gender-based violence. So I think we are trying to get all the stakeholders on board. This conversation around multi-sectoral and intersectional considerations, it's not new. It has been going on, and I think now some action is emerging. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. This is great. Thank you so much, Dr. Saroshi. We are so glad that you came to this webinar. Very insightful discussion that we've had. And I just want to say thank you for sharing your insights on Pathfinder's organizational transformation, positioning intersectional approaches on family planning under the universal health, particularly under the universal health coverage umbrella, including integration of the climate resilience and sexual reproductive health. Thank you so much, and we're glad that you came in. Now,
thank you.
Welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me now to pass on the mic to Medha Sharma. So Medha Sharma is our next moderator. Medha Sharma is the president of Young Women-led organization, Visible Impact in Nepal. She is the technical advisory group member of High Impact Practices in Family Planning and Youth Focal Point of Family Planning 2030. She's been the advocate and activist for women, girls, and young people's championship in the area of sexual reproductive health, climate change, economic empowerment, and many more for more than a decade now. As such, she has advocated for these issues for several national, regional, and international forums, such as UPR, ICPD, and HLPF 2017, among others. Earlier, she served as grants manager at Nike Foundation, which is in the US, at Atlas Corps. Medha Sharma, the floor is yours. Please welcome on board.
Thank you so much, Dr. Julie, and hello, everyone. So now let's move to some country presentations. You'll hear about the intersectional approaches to family planning that's being taken by Pathfinder's program in Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Jordan, and Egypt that build in women's empowerment, climate resilience, prevention of gender-based violence, and adolescents and youth sexual and reproductive health as core elements to improving sexual and reproductive health outcomes and contributing to gender equity. Let me also remind that if you have any questions during the presentation, please input them in the chat box or Q&A window. So without further ado, allow me to introduce our first presenter today, Dr. Sharmin Sultana and Jeanett Chowdhury from Pathfinder, Bangladesh. Dr. Sharmin Sultana, Technical Director, FP Specialist, joined in May 2022 under Pathfinder's Accelerating Universal Access to Family Planning project in Bangladesh. She has been providing technical and strategic leadership for improving family planning services through the activities of the project's technical areas. She is supporting and overseeing the family planning service delivery activities, the adolescent and youth activities, and the workforce capacity building activities of the project. She has more than 25 years of experience in sexual and reproductive health. Also, Jeanett Chowdhury is the SBCC officer at USAID AUAFP project, popularly known as Sukhi Jeevan project. She is supporting activities on community engagement and mobilization, social behavior change communications, local level advocacy, and working with their respective line agencies. Jeanett has been working with Pathfinder International for the last 2.5 years on nationwide SBCC intervention arrangement and coordination with Directorate General of Family Planning of Bangladesh, monitoring, reporting, and planning and implementation of detailed community work plans. She has 6 years of working experience around community radio, SRH, climate resilience, and WASH. So over to you, Dr. Sharmin and Jeanett, and we want to hear about community engagement in Bangladesh. Over to you.
Thank you, Medha. Welcome, everyone, to our presentation on the community engagement activities by USAID Sukhi Jeevan project in Bangladesh. As you know, we are aimed to increase the access to family planning. The project has significant focus on the demand generation through a wide range of the community engagement strategies and approaches, which we would be learn from the presentation. But before that, I would like to draw your kind attention to the big picture, the overview of the project's scope. Next, please. We work in country 32 district, half of the Bangladesh, and support providing coverage more than 14.7 million of the eligible couples. We not only have partnered with the Health Ministry and the Education Ministry and the Ministry of the Women and the Child Affairs, but also have partnered with the 6 youth-led and youth-focused organization who ensure the strengthening both the supply side and also the demand generation side. Next. In order to strengthen the service provision, we are working at the national level to the frontline service delivery level. And to strengthen the demand side, the project has employed a number of strategies by both the public and also the demand sector. Through the community engagement activities, we are engaging the individuals, communities, marginalized population, and areas of where the low MCPR and high unmet need level. Throughout the intervention, we have focused on the system strengthening and also the advocacy for the sustainability. Now, I'm handing over to my colleague, Jeanett. She will describe how we have organized our approaches, activities, and engage the male throughout the interventions. Over to Jeanett. Next.
Thank you, Sharmin Appa. Can we go for the next slide, please? Yes, thank you. About engaging the local community, Sukhi Jeevan has 4 entry points where we have ensured gender integrated approach in all the activities, and we ensured capacity building and monitoring and supervision from all levels. At the first entry point about the facility and the provider level, we are engaging the opinion leaders while activating the existing committees that will help bridge providers and opinion leaders with providers, ensuring and enhancing community service provision with removing the existing challenges. We are facilitating frontline service providers to arrange courtyard meetings and small group discussions with newlywed couples, pregnant mothers, and first-time parents as well. Regarding the school and virtual platform, we are reaching the adolescent clients mostly through one-to-one sessions like from school level health education programs and reaching adolescent clubs to provide them the information they need for seeking SRH services and utilizing social media platforms while arranging different kinds of campaigns and providing information with different websites as well. Shukhijiban also has a priority for the urban health practices, where we are actually raising awareness sessions at the ready-made garment factories. In Bangladesh, we have a predominantly larger workforce, female workforce, working at the ready-made garments factory, where they have actually limited access to FP and SRH services. Next slide, please. These approaches and interventions are part of operational plans of government, where government has sought technical assistance from Shukhijiban. The project has actually consulted government during the planning phase, then decided to provide technical assistance for around scaling proven community models and revitalizing community services such as courtyard meetings and satellite clinic guidelines. Next slide. You are aware that we have adopted a gender-integrated family planning approach and designed community engagement and SBCC activities to engage men and boys through their life cycle approach, actually. So they can be engaged as boys, men, and adult, and as a part of it, we are reaching the male in their workplaces, as you can see the photos here, that while we are utilizing their time and encouraging them to go beyond the social stigma for engaging and participating in family planning services, which is traditionally a part of female health. And as a result, we want them to engage as a partner, client, and agent of change. Next, talking about the agent of change. Next slide, please. Next, talking about the agent of change, we are also engaging opinion leaders, and we are also engaging to start and practice wider shifts in the social norms while engaging men's participation as a supporter, practitioners that can contribute for the overall health and family planning welfare for the girls and the women in the community, household, and the practice level. Next slide, please. When we are talking about this, this is actually one of our scale-up approach of government, where we have a box with the information materials like IC materials, small family planning commodities, and a souvenir to reach the newlywed couples, supporting the newlywed couples to prevent unwanted pregnancy and encourage healthy timing and spacing. But the box does not work in its own. There is a larger effort where we are actually meeting the young people through the community leaders, different types of community leaders and health service providers during their wedding day. And this is a pilot project that Shukhijiban is supporting government to reach and engage more registers and religious leaders. Next slide, please. So while we are developing the bridge among the service providers and the opinion leaders, while they provide the newlywed couples this information box and counsel them about shared decision making and provide them with the counseling that to prevent unwanted pregnancies, as in Bangladesh there is a high rate of unwanted pregnancy and child marriage and adolescent pregnancies as well. So here you can see that these are the reach that we have achieved through this intervention. Next slide, please. Here you can see, this is a part of one website where the government has digitally started the school approach. Here, Shukrallah has supported them to insert or incorporate SRHR information. This is the website for the adolescent, and through this, we are actually helping the adolescent girls and boys to get the information that they needed. Next slide, please. Here at the reach that we are working like community health workers on areas conducting school health programs and community PPFP that already you have heard from Tabinda, and number of opinion leaders and courtyard meetings. The next slide, please. The positive part about the project is that we have partnered with the government of Bangladesh. Already capacity strengthening, already the managers who with whom we have strengthened the capacity are in place to make the newer approaches sustainable that Shukrallah has initiated. While not duplicating the remaining activities, we have ensured approval and preservance of the collaboration works that we are hopeful that will continue even when even after the phase of the project. And we are and consistently we are trying to keep our legacy with continuous advocacy. And that's all from me. Next slide. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharmin and Jeanett. And my takeaway is, when you make holistic approaches and focus on access, continuum of access, you can have Sukhi Jivan or happy life. So now let me present to you our next presenter, Dr. Lopamudra Paul from Pathfinder, India. With a doctoral degree in population studies from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, Dr. Lopamudra Paul has more than 15 years of work experience in program monitoring and evaluation, in addition to program monitoring with a focus on health, population, and development. As the Director of Research and MEL in Pathfinder International, she is the focal point for planning, development, and management of research and monitoring for the projects in India. She oversees the research and feedback requirements based on the digital health platforms of projects. So over to you, Dr. Lopamudra.
Thank you, Medha. And to go with the bandwidth, I would just switch it off my video where I'll speak. And then when the question and answer session comes, I will again switch it on my video. So today we're going to talk about our YUVA program, which is a Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation funded program in India, which has actually taken up a lot of digital approaches as a part of program integration and talking about women empowerment and agency in 2 states in India. So next slide, please. So that program was based on a simple theory of change called SEED model, which has a supply side, demand side, and enabling environment. So at the supply side was basically talking about the services available for all sexual and reproductive health among the young women who are aged 15 to 24 and their husbands. So basically it was in a couple whom we have targeted where the main involvement, which is today's flavor for this Women Day, we're talking about, is also incorporated with the giving for the demand with the community level to ensure that they are include the SRH's care seeking behavior has motivated them to do that, and as well as encouraged also. But as we know that in India, that is very much important to know this enabling environment to be created for this young couple to seek SRH their ensure their needs and that to be satisfied. So this program has also helped. Next. So how we have done it. So the fundamental innovation was basically it is a couple reaching to another couple, program where we have a YUVA card. They are basically a community level counselor and social entrepreneur. They have recruited from the community, trained through a very well-designed module for counseling on family planning, and they also sell that the health and wellness goods with all the over-the-counter contraceptives to the community who are in need, and also provide the referral. So they provide the face-to-face counseling, group meeting, family planning, and non-family planning sales, like the small type of goods, which is given them some kind of earning, which is basically given them the sustainability at the end of the project, and also provide the referral. Next. So we worked in 2 states in India. One is Eastern states, which is in Bihar, where the 5 districts we have worked. And another is the western part of India, which is Maharashtra, where we have worked in another 5 districts. So there are 2 states and 10 districts as Yuva has been worked for 4 years. Next. So now I would like to talk about more about what is the Yuva's innovative products, because today we are all going to talk about that what is the innovation, digital innovation Yuva has done. Next slide. Here is a snapshot, and my subsequent slides will talk about in a detail. So we have a product which is starting with the communication, which is through the different SBCC module or SBCC job aids, which has been created for those entrepreneurs and also for the community. As we all know, the digital literacy among women in India is quite low. Specifically in Bihar, only 50% women own a smartphone. So this particular project has also involved women to reach out and to tell them how to use the digital component to learn, and also help them to feel empowered through a digital medium, increase their literacy. And this is basically given them a new window to learning. Along with that, we also have another innovative thing where we have talked about that the Empari, which is one of the family planning application, which was talked about for the service provider, as we see the service side implementers. And as well as we also provide a platform where we have learned this online, given them the training, how to do the counseling, how to do the sales, and how to make it, these is given them, make it their own livelihood to be done. So one thing is during this COVID period, these online learning things using their mobile was very helpful for this project, because this project has gone through a completely COVID period. But everything was also been taken care by through a nice digital monitoring system, which we have done. Next slide, please. So here is a snapshot of this. We have done the capacity building for the provider, and this is available in the Google Play Store. And I would request everybody to have an hands-on, experience to go through, this application, because this is very useful. You have more than 3,500 downloads till date, and their people are using it and they found it. And you can read the testimonials as people are finding all the service care provided. I've found it very useful. Next slide, please. So here I would like to go through with a small video, which is talking about our SBCC product and how we made these couples, the male and female, as a shuffle couple. Please play the video. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, so we also trained all our social entrepreneurs to use we've developed an application which is completely captured the complete program implementation. You can see that applications has multilingual application. You can do because it's open source. So we use the open source product. So it was very easy to give the analytics, it give the survey, it gave the interact. It also give a visual and also give you the real-time data in a web-based platform. Next slide, please. And these thing has been used by all these women entrepreneurs, which you can see here. There are 1,200 Yuvakar, whereas 600 among them are the women because they are the couple. And we have reached more than 800,000 young people through them. So, and we have reached them through, as you can see, more than 700,000. And counseling session has been conducted, group meeting, you can see 148, 190, group meeting has been organized. And as where we have talked them about the social gender norms, which actually able to create enabling environment. Private sector facilities has been linked, and as I show this referral, and also these service sector providers has been also empathy applications has been used by them. But as we also understand, with these, the social entrepreneurs has sold the products by more than $65,000. And additional funding mobilized sustainability is more than 100,000. Next slide. So finally, I would like to take you through a voice for those safal couple who are successful couples here, where that male and female both have been worked together and shows that how the project has been shown the sustainability. Please play the video.
हम खुद नहीं ही जानते थे परिवार नियोजन के बारे में और खुद जाने और सब लोगों को सबको बताएं हम कि परिवार नियोजन क्या होता है। हमसे हमको ये मिला है कि अगर एक प्रोग्राम खत्म भी हो जाएगा तो मेरा जो बिजनेस हो गया, एक बिजनेस हो गया कि हम 1000 के लोग के फोन है तो हम फोन करके हम बता भी सकते हैं कि हाँ दीदी हम ये चीज़ का दुकान खोले, आप आ भी सकते हैं।
Like Seema, many women today are evolving and challenging the social norms. They value the need for family planning and have come forth to share their positive experience and stories with more women. With increased agency, they make their own lifestyle choices, and some have even bloomed into independent social entrepreneurs.
युवाकार म्हणून मी आहे सक्षम आणि माझं कुटुंब संपूर्ण।
आज युवाकार म्हणून मला स्वतःचा खूप अभिमान वाटतो की माझ्या नवऱ्याच्या खांद्याच्या खांद्याला लावून मी स्वतःचं घर चालवू शकतो आणि माझी स्वप्न मी पूर्ण करू शकतो।
So our presentation have seen that how these Yuvakars and has become empowered, and how the couple have been reached to the communities, the other couples, to creating an environment through the digital mode during this project. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lopamudra Paul, for showing us how a comprehensive, interactive, and sustainable digital technology can lead to supple couples. So now let's hear about climate resilience from our next presenter, Dr. Kishwer Ali, representing Pathfinder's work in Pakistan. Dr. Kishwer Ali is an officer of Pakistan Audit and Accounts Service. She has joined PPHI Sindh as principal officer to CEO. Dr. Kishwer Ali is a medical graduate and completed her house job from Jeanett Postgraduate Medical Center. She has also worked as resident medical officer and lecturer of community medicine. So over to you, Dr. Kishwer.
Thank you. Hello and a very good afternoon to you all. Please, next slide. So before giving the overview of these projects which Pathfinder is doing in Pakistan, I would like to tell you a little about the climate disasters that have been happening in Pakistan and the losses that it has caused. According to the World Bank report, during the last 3 decades, Pakistan has disasters have incurred around $29 billion loss to Pakistan, and they have affected 75 million Pakistanis. And you would also know about the recent floods that affected Pakistan, in which Pakistan incurred around $3 to $10 billion loss, with more than 1,700 deaths and 8 million people were displaced during it. So it is a climate change, and we all know that it will keep occurring again and again because of the extreme temperatures that we are experiencing. And we also know that those who are more vulnerable to these conditions are women and children. So Pathfinder International has launched the projects in which they teach the how to be climate resilient and to be climate resilient through the women. So these 2 projects are for making women the decision makers when these conditions occur. They should know what are their rights, what they have to do, so that the effects of these climate changes are mitigated, so that they are less vulnerable to these conditions. The first project is Surmi. Surmi is a Sindhi language word which means a brave woman or a leader woman. In this project, we advocate about the leadership of women and girls. Actually, this Surmi project contains different approaches. Number 1 and the most important approach is making women as change agents, or making women as change champions, so that they could know about how they could have equitable health services, how they could build community resilience. So for this making the women as change agents, Pathfinder has involved the CBOs, that is community-based organizations. Through these community-based organizations, women from different communities would be selected. They would then be trained on sexual and reproductive health, family planning, myths, and others. Once these community leaders or community agents, whatever we call them the community champions, once these are trained, they would be linked in future with the decision makers. Those persons who make decisions at the district level or the provincial level. So those women will have the privilege that their input is included in the decision making, especially for the women need, especially for family planning, sexual and reproductive health, and others. Apart from that, the Surmi project also aims to strengthen the health system. During the initial phases, there would be assessment of the healthcare facilities. Assessment of the health facilities, whether they are ready or not for the climate disasters, and if they are not, and then contingency plan would be provided to them as to how to be ready for such disasters in the future. And the third point would be support for the community regarding water conservation, hygiene, sanitation, and others. The second project is Dharti Amar. And Dharti Amar is also a combination of 2 Sindhi language words, which means motherland. It is also a women-led climate change resilience. It was carried out in one district of Sindh, and it was for 1 year, and it completed last year. And there were few interventions in this Dharti Amar project, which resulted in very good impact in the community. Example, in Dharti Amar project, the Pathfinder International, along with other stakeholders, it went to the community and they taught the local community for discouraging the early child marriages And they also taught about sexual and reproductive health, about the healthcare seeking behaviors, and others. So when the project ended and the survey was done about the impacts of the section of the project, it was seen that the community was more mobilized. They were seeking more healthcare, and the family planning commodities uptake also increased. Next slide, please. So innovations which have been introduced during this Shukrallah project are that the leadership through women. As I talked earlier, the women will be selected from the community and they would be made as better decision makers so that they can be involved in the decision making. And this whole project is based on the gender transformative strategy, because we know the importance of the women empowerment and gender equality in our community. Secondly, not only in the communities, the project has also the agreement with different universities. On the project, people will be going to the universities and ask about the opinion about the effect of climate change on the women, about sexual and reproductive health, about family planning, and others. Ideas will be taken from the students and they will be implemented in the communities. Third, as I mentioned earlier, would be the skill building in the community. The local people, especially women, will be equipped about water conservation, kitchen gardening, etc., so that whenever there is any such disaster, they are self-sufficient and so that they can look after themselves. Next slide, please. So the highlights of the project, or what has been achieved till date, are that the kickoff meetings have been done. There are different stakeholders, different private and government stakeholders. Example, the Health Department, Government of Sindh, Health Department, Government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the Women Development Department, and others. Private organizations such as PPHI Sindh, which is a non-profit organization, which looks after the primary healthcare in Sindh as well. Then the disaster preparedness assessment of the health facilities has been conducted in 6 districts, 5 in Sindh province of the Sindh province of Pakistan, and 1 in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. The assessment, in the assessment, it has been assessed whether the health facilities are ready if any climate disaster occurs in the future, and if they are not, what should they do to be what should they be able to do if the climate disaster occurs in the future. CBOs has been taken on board, and climate change, the government of Sindh was helped by the Pathfinder and other stakeholders in finalization of the climate change policy, which is a great achievement. And then in the floods as well, when the project just kicked off, the floods occurred. During the flood as well, the Pathfinder International, through the Shukrallah project, supported different organizations in establishing medical camps and provided medicine as well. Next, please. Next slide, please. These are few glimpses as what work has been done. Next, please. This I have already talked about, that during the Dharti Amar project, the interventions which were done had very good impact on the community. Like, people were discouraging the early childhood marriages. There were more uptake of the family planning communities. There were more mobilization of the community for seeking the healthcare, and there were more referrals to the lady health workers, and from the lady health workers to the health facilities in the province. Next slide, please. This is how it was carried out in the community. And next slide, please. Next. So the next steps which would be carrying out are the continuation of the previous steps, as I already mentioned, that wherever the community-based organization have not been engaged yet, community-based organization would be engaged there. Then we will approach different other universities as well, so that the incubation hubs are created there, and the girls and the boys There are thought about their rights, gender equality, women empowerment, sexual and reproductive health, and others. MIST training have been carried out in the province of Sindh. So MIST trainings will be carried out in Char Sadda district of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Lady health workers will be trained about the referral linkages, how to refer, where to refer, etc. One important thing in the last, which I would like to mention, is that participatory visuals, like our communication department, will be involving the influencers and social media influencers and others, and will involve them for making messages regarding this Surmi project and others, so that the community could be influenced in a better way as well. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kishwer. So now let's move from South Asia to Jordan to hear from our next presenter, Ms. Mysaa Mustafa, representing Pathfinder's work in Jordan. Ms. Mysaa Mustafa has a BS degree in nursing and more than 20 years experience in project supervision, coordination, and health military services. Mysaa currently is working with Institute for Family Health, IFH, as senior act with her project supervisor, managing field coordinators in 6 governorates in Jordan to build very young adolescent skills and knowledge on SRH, nutrition, basic life skills, and protection to empower them and to become future leaders. So over to you, Ms. Mysaa.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you all and happy International Women's Day. I'm so honored to be with you today. Please, the next slide. Act with Her project. Every girl around the world deserves support. Act with Her program starts in Ethiopia and then expanded to Jordan and launched in Jordan in August 2021. The project is delivered in close partnership with a leading Jordanian NGO, the Institute for Family Health, IFH. Act with Her is funded by Pathfinder. The AWH model takes a panoramic approach to parenting with adolescent girls in line with health, education, economics, social foundation that they need to thrive and navigate healthy, happy, and productive transitions to adulthood. We have empowerment clubs for Jordanian and refugee adolescents, girls and boys aged from 10 to 14, with trained young adult mentors aged from 18 to 25, hosting a series of group discussions to provide them with a diverse range of knowledge, life skills, and supportive peer networks. A deep adaptation process ensured that the model was specifically tailored to the Jordanian context by our technical team, and the material was translated into Arabic. Next, please. AWH taking the panoramic view. Although it's a girl-centered program, we directly include the adolescents, boys, because there is a huge demand and needs for the boys as for the girls. Also, we create a peer alliance and help foster gender equality in the next generation. Our Empowerment Club curriculum covers a wide and diverse range of topics related to overall well-being, including puberty and menstruation, health, nutrition, education, in-person and digital communication, safety and bullying, gender, community volunteerism, and economic empowerment. We focus on the model which we called a triple win, which include adolescents, young adults, parents, and caregivers. The life stage approach for adolescents was to give a holistic information and support needed to thrive, and for the young adults to build confidence, a job training by serving as mentors. And for parents and caregiver, we focus in improving the relationship and understanding with their adolescents. This triple win design, which engaging, as said before, adolescents, young adults, and parents and caregivers, are given in the same time that we affect change for and through 3 generations at once. Next, please. By the number, as far till the end of February 2023, we cover 6 governorates across Jordan. More than 100 young adult mentors were trained, leading more than 130 groups of young adolescents. Our target was to cover 2,880 adolescents, but we achieved, thank God, more than 3,100 young adolescents and completed all of 38 group discussion modules with the mentor, with their attendance, of course, overachieved more than 86%. And for the adolescents' knowledge, 8 of every 9 adolescents shows that they have age-appropriate knowledge after participating in our project based on pre and post test. And for the parents and caregiver, our target was to achieve about 1,500 parents, but we, thank God, achieved more than 1,700 parents, with 99 of parents passed post-assessment survey. And regarding that, building the trust relationship between the parents, one of the mothers said that when my daughter told me what she learned in the AWH session, my fear of her going out by herself disappeared, because I trust that she knows how to take care of herself and what to do if someone harassed her. Next, please. Here are some examples of our mother, AWH mother and AW adolescents girl. One of the mothers said, on behalf of all the mothers, I want to thank you for carrying out this project. My daughter is a participant and I'm a teacher in the local Quran school. I noticed a lot of changes in my daughter and my other students who have also been attending these sessions. They admire the mentor as a role model and can't wait for the next meeting. And for adolescents girl, she said, I used to get bullied a lot in school, especially about my disability. When that happened, I didn't know how to respond or how to stand up for myself. But after participating in AWH, I started using what I learned in the sessions to reason with bullies and to talk with them and explain why they shouldn't bully me and why it's wrong to do that. Next, please. Looking into the future, we would like, of course, to expand more and more, because there is a huge demand for the program across our governorate, with participants wanting to repeat it for themselves and to invite their siblings, their friends, and their neighbors. Now, our team is mobilizing resources and continue through a second phase. And beyond sustaining the program implementation, also to continue deepening the partnership and coordination with the key government stakeholders, such as Ministry of Planning, Jordan Response Information System for Syria Crisis, JORIS, and Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Social Development, Government's Higher Population Council. We are still remain to be committed to reach as many as adolescents, boys and girls across Jordan as possible and help ensure they have happy, bright, healthy, and gender equal future. Thank you for listening and happy International Women's Day.
Thank you so much, Mysaa. And now let me present our last two presenters, Sara Aziz and Salma Shukrallah, representing Pathfinder's work in Egypt. Sara Aziz Morgan is a certified psychological counselor with a master's degree in psychotherapy and a specialized diploma in counseling survivors of sexual abuse. Driven by her compassion for the victims of sexual harassment, Sara strived to learn and obtain certifications from international accredited institutes at worldwide institutions to be able to offer high standard service in her community. Sara has an experience of more than 40,000 hours of professional counseling, training, and preparing leaders that can support abused children. In 2012, Sara founded Safe Kids and became its Chief Executive Officer, through which she trains and equips leaders to support abused children. Salma Shukrallah is a sociologist, researcher, and management consultant specializing in enhancing the social and gender performance of for-profit and non-profit enterprises. She has a bachelor's degree in liberal arts with a focus on sociology and a master's degree in anthropology and gender studies. Shukrallah's consulting practice encompasses the development of position and policy papers for non-profit organizations and the creation of strategies and action plans to enhance the sustainability management practices of private sector companies. So over to you, Sara and Salma, and we would like to hear about the social, economic, and women's empowerment work in Egypt. Over to you.
Thank you, Medha, so much, and happy Women's Day for every woman on the call. It's such an honor to be presenting the Women Economic and Social Empowerment Program, which is funny. This program is working in 7 governorates in Egypt, and it's working on 4 sectors, which is covering 3 main objectives. And I'll be talking about one of the objectives today, and I think my colleague Salma will be covering another objective. Next slide, please. What we're doing through the project that we are, as you see here, we're working on different sectors of factories, and we're working on the government awareness and the local entities like the NGOs awareness. As you also see that the target segment is 200K, and this will be the direct reach throughout the project for the coming 5 years. We are expecting a 15 million reach, which is indirect reach through the families of the beneficiaries will be approaching. Next, please. Those are the partners in WZIP project. Ahead the Curve and Basira Care, aligned with Gila and Fimbi and Safe ourselves are partners together working on different aspects, improving the work environment for women in the private sector and expanding women's financial inclusion. And the last objective would be reduce the socio-economic impact of violence against women. This will happen under the auspices of the national councillors working in our country with and in partnership with the Ministry of Social Affairs. This project is so unique because it's talking to every person in charge in the country, and this is a holistic approach we see tackling key personnel in the country, in the government, in the local entities, and in the private sector, so we can speak the same language about empowerment of women. Next slide, please. And in this slides, you will see that this is the holistic approach. And I think this will be familiar for every one of you ladies working in different projects all over the world. National parties engagement, NGOs engagement, private sector engagement together can be able to do this holistic approach, talking about empowerment. But the unique thing we're also doing in this project is, next slide, please, is engaging men. And engaging men is big part of working on their mindsets, their behavior change, believing in the same cause with us. This gives us more access to more family, reducing more violence, and making every party in the community be part of the change. We work with men through different camps out of their traditional classroom seating, talking about masculinity versus manhood, talking about their mindset, fatherhood issues, the model they saw in their houses, so they are copying it, and how they can be a serious aspect and sector in fighting violence against women. I would be very proud to share with you one of our activities in men's activities, and we will be showing you a video right after this picture, if we can Yeah, we can show the video. Okay. So this video is reflecting a camp until we prepare the video. It's a camp we do in the desert. We take men out of the usual class seating rooms and training and talk about how they can be different men with us, empowering women and ending violence. We'll take a look on the video.
انا مش انا باخد السقف زي ما انت عايز. رجاله عايز راس سيطر اكبر وسيطر. مرة رجاله.
Thank you so much for watching the video. Before giving the floor to my colleague Salma, the approach is cognitive behavior therapy, working on the thoughts, the core beliefs, taking them through the behavior and emotions so we can change the attitude as a result of such an implementation. Working with women in the factories, working with local NGOs to be able to make and multiply the same concept we're working with, giving us a lot of hope to see the change coming on the way through this project. Thank you so much. Giving the floor to my friend and colleague Salma. Please feel free to introduce your part.
Thank you, Sara. Thank you so much. Yes, as Sara said, there are several, we're targeting several sectors, and one of them is the private sector in Egypt. Next slide, please. So as part of the Women's Economic and Social Empowerment Program, an important part is to incentivize private sector companies to recruit more women and retain their female employees and create a safer work environment. And as part of this effort, I'm working as part of a consultancy team with Pathfinder to support the private sector companies to adopt one of two models that help enhance the overall gender performance of private sector companies. These two models are the Women's Empowerment Principles and the Egyptian Gender Equity Seal. Now, why these two models? It's because they provide us with a concrete framework and methodology to enhance the gender performance of private sector companies. I'll explain now more. Please, next slide, please. So the Women's Empowerment Principles, it's developed by UN Global Compact and UN Women. Here in Egypt, mainly supported by UN Women. How does it provide this framework? It provides it via 7 main principles, which we work to for the companies to adopt and implement in an action plan. Okay, so the first one is having the corporate leadership commit to gender equity in the company. Enhance gender equality in the workplace, enhance employee health and safety with a particular focus on women's health and safety, increase the professional education and training of women within the company, increase women in the supply chain, and advocate gender equity in all their public forums or in many of their public forums, and on always monitoring and reporting their gender performance to the public. Next slide, please. Similarly, the Egyptian Gender Equity Seal is another model and another framework which we work with private companies to adopt and implement, and it covers 4 main areas, and that's increasing women in recruitment, enhancing the career development opportunities of women within the company, creating a better family-work balance so that women's career and family so women can balance their family needs and their careers, and of course taking strict measures to combat sexual harassment within the workplace. Next slide, please. So far, we have onboarded 10 companies that have chosen to adopt one of the two models. Okay. And of course, we are communicating with many more, and these companies are all included in sectors with high female participation, and that's mainly agribusiness, textiles, and retail. Next slide, please. So what's the process? Basically, we approach the company, they sign the MOU with Pathfinder, they choose one of the two models to follow, and we help them or assist them in creating a gender committee that supervises the whole process. And then we do a gender gap analysis to the company, which basically we identify the gender gaps within the company and opportunities for improvement. And based on this study, we develop with them a gender action plan with concrete goals and means to achieve these goals to minimize the gender gap. And in the case of the EGES certification, there's also an auditing phase and certification provided by the Egypt's National Council for Women. We help them through that step as well. Next slide, please. So in doing so, we focus with private sector companies on these focus areas, and that's increasing women in recruitment, minimizing the pay gap between men and women, right, the gender pay gap, increasing women in promotion, increasing women professional education and training within private sector companies, ensuring that women are receiving sufficient maternity and childcare services within the private sector companies so that their career is not hindered, and that the company is protecting women from sexual harassment or any form of violence. And we cover these areas, of course, through policies, procedures, and training, and sometimes facilities that are included in the action plan we develop with the company. In addition, we don't stop at, Pathfinder does not stop at developing the action plan with the company and leaving the implementation to the company alone. No, they also assist the companies in implementing big parts of these action plans, and these include supporting them in developing the needed policies and procedures, and also with certain services, like, for example, linking them with connecting the private companies with specialized training centers that provide female talent, especially in areas that do not have or are, we call them like problem areas that are predominantly male, and training workers, both male and female, on combating violence against women in the workplace, and also enhancing the financial literacy of women or female employees. Thank you very much. This is just a snapshot of what we do. Of course, I'm happy to elaborate more in the Q&A section. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sara and Salma. And with that, we have wrapped up the presentations, but we might have time for one or two questions. I did notice that most of the interesting questions that came in the chat box has already been answered by our presenters and speakers in the chat box itself. One question that I see from Soumya Ramarao, and it was placed during Dr. Tabinda's presentation, so I assume that it was directed to Dr. Tabinda. The question is, the 1994 Cairo Agenda had laid out the building blocks for a comprehensive RH approach, which included many elements beyond FP. What are the main reasons why this agenda has not been achieved as yet, and how current approaches differ from Cairo? So Tabinda, if you want to take that question, over to you.
Thank you so much. And I think this is such a critical question. ICPD by far has been the most progressive development and consensus builder, on women's sexual and reproductive health and rights. Many countries have committed to it, but the implementation has faced a lot of barriers. Not only that, we also saw that the women's agenda and the rights agenda got diluted in subsequent commitments like the MDGs, and even when MDGs were developed, we initially only had the goal 5A, if everybody remembers, and goal 5B, which was more focused on rights, was added later, and many countries, of course, committed to it. Many countries, for example, Pakistan, where I come from, there have been policy developments and there have been directives, but unfortunately, we have seen slow delivery on that. ICPD agenda is still very much important, I think, and that's something Pathfinder is deeply committed to, and we raise our voices, at the ICPD. conferences that still occur. But I think the need for us is to continue that advocacy and also to connect it with other mechanisms around it. Advocacy and collective work on it is needed to push the systems to work towards women's reproductive health and, ensure that the services are delivered to women. But I agree that it is sad to be saying today in 2023 that ICPD agenda is still unfulfilled. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tavinda. And I don't think that we have any questions in the chat box. So yeah, I'd like to take the last few minutes to, thank you everyone for joining this. I think it was a very insightful conversation to be heard from 5 different countries, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Jordan, and Egypt on so many different holistic components like community engagement, digital innovation, climate resilience. So yeah, I hope you all have enjoyed this webinar. The recording will be available in Pathfinder's YouTube channel as well, and also we'll be sharing it with all the registrants through the email. Happy International Women's Day to you, and may you all have a very good rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.